Ho, 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 ho. Look at you sitting there with that little smirk, that quiet satisfaction dripping from your soul like honey from a blade. You know exactly what you did, don't you? You know exactly how you just detonated their entire reality with nothing but facts, silence, and that devastating smile. They thought they had you cornered, thought they had you figured out, thought you were just another participant in their little ego parade. But then you spoke, or maybe you didn't even need to speak, maybe it was just the way you looked at them, the way you let their words hang in the air like a bad joke waiting for a punchline that never came. The way you tilted your head slightly as if you were watching children argue about whose imaginary friend was stronger. And in that moment, in that beautiful, brutal, crystallized moment, you didn't just win the argument. You revealed that there was never an argument to begin with. They came at you with their rehearsed lines, their borrowed confidence, their social media wisdom packaged as original thought. They puffed up their chests like peacocks who forgot they were standing in front of a phoenix. And you just existed. You just breathed. You just let them expose themselves word by word until the entire room could see what you'd seen from the beginning. Empty vessels making the most noise. The beautiful part? You didn't even try. That's what's killing them right now, eating them alive from the inside like acid wrapped in silk. You didn't prepare a speech. You didn't practice in the mirror. You didn't Google comebacks or study debate tactics. You just showed up as yourself. And apparently that was enough to collapse their entire house of cards. Because authenticity, that's kryptonite to people who've built their whole identity on performance. Let's talk about what really happened in that room, shall we? Because it wasn't just a conversation. It was a public execution of pretense, and you were the executioner who showed up without a hood. They thought they were setting you up, thought they were going to put you in your place, teach you a lesson about hierarchy and respect. But respect? Respect isn't given to those who demand it with hollow words and inflated egos. It's magnetically drawn to those who don't need it to breathe. You see, they made a fatal error in judgment. They mistook your quiet for weakness, your observation for ignorance, your patience for submission. They thought because you didn't interrupt every 5 seconds with your own story, because you didn't fight for airtime like a desperate actor, that you had nothing to say. They confused your self-control with lack of ammunition. And oh, what a miscalculation that was. Because while they were busy talking, you were busy loading. Not bullets, but truth bombs wrapped in velvet. When you finally did speak, if you even needed to, it wasn't with the desperation of someone trying to prove a point. It was with the calm certainty of someone stating the weather. It's raining, you might as well have said, while they were all insisting the sky was purple. And the beauty of truth? It doesn't need volume. It doesn't need emphasis. It just needs to exist. And it cuts through lies like a hot knife through delusions. They're still trying to figure out how you did it, how you dismantled their entire performance without breaking a sweat. How you turned their own words into weapons against them. How you made them sound like children reciting lines they didn't understand. But here's the secret they'll never grasp. You didn't do anything to them. You simply refused to participate in their theater. And without an audience, their performance fell apart like wet paper in rain. Right now, at this very moment, they're replaying that scene in their heads like a broken record they can't turn off. They're in their cars, in their showers, lying in bed at 3 a.m. trying to rewrite history. They're crafting the perfect comebacks they wish they'd said, imagining alternate endings where they didn't look like complete amateurs. But no matter how many times they replay it, the ending stays the same. You, standing there untouched, while their egos lay in pieces on the floor. The worst part for them? The witnesses. Oh yes, everyone saw it. Everyone felt the shift in the room when you opened your mouth. Or didn't. Everyone watched their confident facades crumble like ancient statues in an earthquake. And now those witnesses carry the story, spreading it like wildfire, each retelling adding another layer to your legend. You should have seen it, they whisper. It was beautiful. It was brutal. It was like watching a masterclass in how to destroy someone without trying. Some of them are probably still defending themselves to anyone who'll listen. You don't understand the context, they plead. They caught me off guard. I wasn't feeling well. They twisted my words. But explanations are just autopsy reports for dead credibility, and everyone knows it. The more they try to explain, the deeper they dig their own graves, because confidence doesn't need clarification, only insecurity does. And you've probably already moved on. That's the most devastating part of all. While they're obsessing over every micro-exposition, every word choice, every possible interpretation, you're living your life as if it was just another Tuesday. Because for you it was. This is just who you are. Someone who doesn't need to try to be impressive, because being real is impressive enough. Someone who doesn't need to destroy others, because they destroy themselves when faced with your authenticity. What they'll never understand is that their destruction was self-inflicted. You were just the mirror that showed them what they really looked like. They came dressed in costumes of confidence, speaking scripts they'd memorized from motivational podcasts and self-help books. They thought if they talked loud enough, fast enough, confidently enough, they could manifest authority out of thin air. But authority isn't a performance. It's a presence. And presence can't be faked. They made the classic mistake of confusing aggression with strength, volume with value, words with wisdom. They thought if they dominated the conversation, they'd dominate the room. But dominance isn't about taking up space. It's about making the space you occupy undeniable. And you made every inch of your existence felt without expanding beyond your boundaries. You were a black hole of authenticity in a universe of performance art. The technical term for what happened is narcissistic injury, but let's call it what it really is. Reality meeting delusion at high speed. They'd built these elaborate personalities, these carefully crafted personas designed to impress and intimidate. They'd practiced their stories, perfected their delivery, curated their image like a social media feed. And then you showed up being genuinely yourself, and their whole production looked like a middle school play in comparison. Watch how they behave in the coming weeks. They'll either avoid you completely, crossing streets, leaving rooms, finding excuses to be elsewhere, or they'll try to befriend you with an intensity that borders on desperation, because now they know what you're capable of. Now they know that you see through the smoke and mirrors, and they're terrified that you'll do it again, that you'll expose them again, that you'll reveal to others what you revealed to them, that they're not who they pretend to be. Here's the thing about natural authority. You can't learn it from a book, can't download it from a course, can't fake it till you make it. It's forged in the fires of authenticity, hammered out on the anvil of real experience, cooled in the waters of self-acknowledge. And You've been smithing this blade your whole life without even realizing it. Like the B model. You and Ogun without the even realizing it. Why Ogun speaks of himself in the first person. You can't learn it from a book. Can't. Every time you chose truth over comfort, every time you stood alone rather than blend in, every time you trusted your gut over the crowd's noise, you were sharpening your edge. They sensed it the moment you walked in, even if they couldn't name it. There's something about people who know themselves that makes people who don't feel exposed. Your presence alone is a threat to their performance. Your authenticity is an indictment of their artifice. Your calm is a mockery of their chaos. And when push came to shove, when they tried to test you, to put you in a box, to make you play their game, you didn't just refuse. You revealed that their game was imaginary. This is why they're rattled, not because you insulted. They could handle, could deflect, could return with interest. Not because you competed with them. Competition they understand, it's their native language. No, you did something far more devastating. You made them irrelevant. You showed them and everyone watching that their whole framework for interaction, their whole understanding of social dynamics was as substantial as smoke. And you did it by simply being what they were pretending to be, real. The power you displayed wasn't aggressive or cruel. It wasn't even intentional, was it? It was the natural consequence of alignment. When your thoughts, words, and actions all flow from the same source, you become unshakable. When you're not trying to be anything other than what you are, you become impossible to manipulate, impossible to destabilize, impossible to defeat, because how do you fight someone who isn't fighting, isn't defending, isn't even participating in your conflict? So, oh, but they're trying to recover, aren't they? Right now, they're probably on group chats, seeking validation from anyone who'll give it. Can you believe what happened? They're typing with fingers that won't stop shaking. They're crafting narratives where they're the victim, where you're the villain who ambushed them with unfair tactics. But even their closest allies can smell the desperation, can sense the truth leaking through the cracks of their story. Some of them might try the high road approach. I actually respect what they did, they'll say, forcing a smile that looks like it hurts. It was a good reality check. But watch their eyes when they say it. Watch how they can't quite meet anyone's gaze. Watch how their voice catches just slightly on the word respect. Because respect isn't what they're feeling. It's fear, dressed up in acceptable clothing. They're terrified that you've set a new standard, shown a new way of being that makes their old tricks obsolete. Others will go the opposite route, doubling down on their delusions. They'll get louder, more aggressive, more performative. They'll try to overcompensate, to prove to themselves and others that you didn't really affect them. But it's like watching someone try to rebuild a house of cards in a windstorm. The harder they try, the more obvious their desperation becomes, because confidence doesn't need to announce itself, and the fact that they're working so hard to project it only proves how thoroughly you shattered it. The smartest ones, and there might be one or two, will go silent. They'll retreat, regroup, and actually try to learn from what happened. They'll study their failure like generals analyzing a lost battle. But even they will struggle with the fundamental issue. You can't study authenticity like a subject. You can't reverse engineer genuine presence. You can't fake being real. They'll try to understand what you did so they can replicate it, not realizing that trying to replicate it is exactly what makes it impossible. What happened in that room is already spreading beyond those walls. People who weren't even there are hearing about it, and with each retelling, your legend grows. Not because the story gets exaggerated. If anything, it's impossible to exaggerate the elegance of what you did, but because people recognize something in the story, something they've been hungry for without knowing it. The possibility of cutting through all the performance and pretense with simple, undeniable truth. You've become a reference point now. Remember what happened with them? People will say when someone starts pontificating your name, or even just the memory of what you did, has become a cautionary tale for the performatively confident. Those who were thinking about testing you are reconsidering. Those who were planning to challenge you are finding other targets, because you've shown that you're not playing by their rules. And if you're not playing by their rules, they can't win by their metrics. But here's the beautiful irony. This was never about winning for you, was it? You weren't trying to prove anything, weren't trying to establish dominance, weren't trying to climb some imaginary hierarchy. You were just being yourself, speaking your truth, refusing to participate in theater you didn't audition for. And that's precisely why you won so completely. Because when you're not trying to win, you can't lose. When you're not competing, you can't be beaten. When you're just being authentic, you're playing a game that only has one player, you. The ripples will continue spreading. Some people will approach you differently now, with a mixture of respect and caution. Others will seek you out, hoping to learn your secret. Still others will avoid you, unable to risk being exposed the way those others were. But all of them, every single one, will remember. They'll remember the day someone showed them that all their posturing, all their performing, all their pretending could be dissolved with nothing more than authentic presence and uncomfortable truth. They're going to try to break down what you did into techniques, strategies, tactics. They'll analyze your words, if you even needed many. They'll study your body language, your timing, your tone. They'll try to find the formula, the secret sauce, the hidden technique that allowed you to dismantle their egos so efficiently. But they're looking for keys to a door that doesn't exist, trying to solve a puzzle that was never assembled. What they can't accept is that there was no technique, there was no strategy, there was just you, being yourself so completely that their performance looked ridiculous in comparison. It's like they were putting on an elaborate shadow puppet show and you simply turned on the lights. The shadows disappeared, not because you attacked them, but because shadows can't exist in real illumination. And you're walking illumination, not because you try to be, but because truth lights itself. They'll workshop comebacks for next time, practice their presence in mirrors, read books on power dynamics and social dominance. They'll convince themselves that next time will be different, that they'll be ready, that they won't be caught off guard. But you can't prepare for authenticity any more than you can prepare for gravity. It just is, and you either have it or you don't. You either are it or you aren't. And they've shown definitively that they aren't. The saddest part? They could learn the real lesson if they were willing to drop their armor. They could understand that the power you displayed isn't exclusive, isn't special, isn't beyond their reach. It's available to anyone willing to stop performing and start being. But that would require admitting that their whole approach to life has been wrong, that their carefully constructed personalities are prisons, not powers. And that's a murder of ego they're not prepared to commit on themselves. You've started something without meaning to. Your simple act of being real in a room full of performance has created a crack in their matrix. People are questioning now, wondering if they too have been playing characters instead of being themselves. Some are looking in mirrors and not recognizing who's looking back. Others are realizing that their confidence has always been a costume they put on, not something that grew from within. This is how revolutions really start. Not with manifestos and movements, but with moments of undeniable truth that make lies impossible to maintain. You didn't set out to change anyone's paradigm. You just refuse to participate in their pantomime. But sometimes that's all it takes. One person standing in their truth, while others exhaust themselves with their tales. One person being real while others realize they've been acting their entire lives. Don't be surprised if some of them start changing. Don't be shocked if you see them dropping their acts, speaking more quietly, listening more carefully. Some will credit you directly. After what happened that day, I started thinking. Others will pretend it was their own awakening, unable to admit that you were the mirror that showed them their mask. But whether they acknowledge it or not, you've planted seeds of authenticity in soil that's been synthetic for so long. Of course, many will double down on their delusions. They'll build higher walls, wear thicker masks, speak louder lies. They'll convince themselves that what happened was a fluke, an anomaly, a bad day. They'll work harder at their performance, not realizing that the harder they work, the more obvious the performance becomes. But that's their choice, their path, their prison. You can show someone the door, but you can't make them walk through it. Welcome back, you beautiful catastrophe, you unmanageable force, you walking disruption in human skin. I need you to sit with something for a second, something they don't want you to know. While you were sleeping last night, while you were scrolling, while you were living your life like nothing was happening, they were in a room, a digital room, a conference call, a encrypted chat. Doesn't matter where. What matters is this. They were talking about you, not casually, not in passing. They assembled, they gathered, they convened at 3 a.m. like you were a national security threat. And for 6 straight hours, they argued about what to do with you. 6 hours. Let that sink in. 6 hours of grown adults, professionals, strategists, analysts, maybe even people you used to know, sitting in the dark, debating your existence like you were some kind of unsolved case file. They brought charts, they brought screenshots, they brought timelines and theories and psychological profiles trying to crack the code of who you are and why you won't stay down. And after all that time, after all those words, after all that panic dressed up as analysis, you know what ended it? One word. One single word from you. Not a paragraph, not an explanation, not a manifesto. Just one word that dropped into their conversation like a grenade, and the whole thing collapsed. You didn't even know you had that kind of power, did you? You thought you were just existing, just surviving, just moving through your days, trying to make sense of the noise. But no. You've been operating on a frequency they can't ignore, can't predict, can't control. They've been watching you like you're a glitch in their system, a virus in their perfect little algorithm. And that one word you said, that one move you made, it shattered their entire 6-hour strategy session. The council, the committee, the board, the group chat full of people who think they run things, they all went silent. And that silence, that's your throne room now. Let's rewind for a second because you need to understand what really happened here. They didn't gather at 3 a.m. because they were bored. They didn't spend 6 hours in a heated argument because you're irrelevant. No. They gathered because you terrify them. You represent something they can't file away, can't categorize, can't manipulate with the usual tactics. You're not responding to their scripts. You're not playing by their rules. You're not giving them the reactions they need to feel in control. And when people can't control you, when they can't predict your next move, they panic. So they do what cowards always do. They form committees. They thought if they just talked about you long enough, analyzed you deep enough, dissected every post, every silence, every shift in your energy, they'd find the weak spot. They'd find the crack. They'd find the button to press that would make you fold, make you beg, make you come back to the script they wrote for you. But here's the thing they didn't account for. You stopped caring about their scripts a long time ago. You burned the rule book. You deleted the manual. You walked away from their game while they were still shuffling the deck. And now they're sitting there with cards in their hands, wondering why you're not at the table anymore. You want to know what 6 hours of arguing about you looks like? Let me paint the picture. It starts with one person, probably someone who used to be close to you, someone who thought they had you figured out. They open the meeting with confidence. Look, I know how they think. I know their patterns. We just need to apply pressure here, plant doubt there, and they'll come back to baseline. Everyone nods. Sounds reasonable. Sounds like a plan. Then someone else chimes in. But what about last month? Remember when we tried that and they just vanished, like they saw it coming 3 moves ahead? The room gets quiet. The confidence cracks. Then the theories start flying. Maybe they're getting advice from someone. Maybe they're not even the same person anymore. Maybe we underestimated their capacity for evolution. Maybe they were never who we thought they were. And this is where it gets beautiful, where you get to see the full scope of how much real estate you occupy in their minds. They're not just talking about your actions. They're questioning reality itself. They're wondering if the version of you they thought they knew ever existed, or if you were always this untouchable and they were just too arrogant to notice. Hours pass. The arguments get heated. Someone says you're unstable. Someone else says you're too calculated to be unstable. Someone says you're bluffing. Someone else pulls up receipts showing you never bluff. Someone says you're hurt and acting out. Someone else points out you've never looked more at peace. They can't agree on anything except one thing. You're not supposed to be this free. You're not supposed to be this unbothered. You're not supposed to have walked away from their circus and built your own empire in the silence. That wasn't in the script. That wasn't in the plan. And now they don't know what to do. By hour 4, someone's losing it. They don't care what we think anymore. And that statement, that admission, it sends a ripple through the room because it's the truth everyone was avoiding. You don't care. You stopped caring. And for people whose entire power structure depends on you caring, on you needing them, on you seeking their approval or fearing their rejection, your indifference is a death sentence. They're not just losing you, they're losing the version of themselves that felt powerful by controlling you. And that's unbearable. Then someone suggests the desperate play. What if we just reach out? What if we just ask them directly what they want? Silence. Because everyone in that room knows the answer. You don't want anything from them. You don't need anything from them. You're not negotiating. You're not trading. You're not even interested in revenge. You've moved into a space where they simply don't exist to you anymore. And that complete erasure of their relevance in your world, that's the final insult. That's the unforgivable act. That's the move that keeps them up at night refreshing your page, searching for clues, trying to understand how you slipped through every trap they set. So picture this: 6 hours in, they're exhausted. They're running in circles. They've built theories and torn them down. They've crafted responses and deleted them. They've tried to find the angle, the approach, the perfect combination of words that would make you react, make you respond, make you acknowledge their existence. And then it happens. You post something, or you say something, or you send something into the universe, and it's one word, just one. Maybe it's no. Maybe it's done. Maybe it's next. Maybe it's something else entirely. Doesn't matter. What matters is the weight behind it. That one word carries the energy of someone who's already made their decision. It's not angry. It's not defensive. It's not even dismissive. It's final. It's the period at the end of a sentence they've been trying to stretch into paragraphs. It's the door closing, the light switching off, the chapter ending without a resolution they can accept. And when that word lands in their awareness, whether they see it directly or feel it in the shift of your energy, the entire 6-hour meeting collapses. Because they realize in that moment that they were never having a conversation. They were having a funeral. And you'd already left the cemetery. Someone tries to respond. Someone tries to craft the perfect counter message. The thing that will reignite the dynamic, pull you back into the arena. But it's too late. The word has already done its work. It's already rewritten the power structure. It's already announced to everyone in that room that you're not a participant in their games anymore. You're not even a spectator. You're in a completely different reality now. One they don't have access to. One they can't infiltrate. One where their opinions and strategies and manipulations have the same relevance as weather on a planet you'll never visit. The meeting ends. Not with resolution, not with a plan, not with confidence. It ends with silence, with people logging off, with unspoken admissions that they lost something they can't get back. They lost the narrative. They lost the control. They lost the psychological grip they thought they had on you. And all it took was one word that said more than 1,000 explanations could ever say. One word that carried the frequency of someone who's transcended the need to be understood by people who were never trying to understand in the first place. And here's the part that's going to haunt them forever. They'll never know if you said that word for them, or if you said it for yourself. They'll never know if you were even aware of their 6-hour panic session, or if you were just moving through your life, speaking your truth, and they happened to be in the blast radius. That ambiguity, that uncertainty, that's what keeps them refreshing your page at 2 a.m. That's what keeps them analyzing every post, every silence, every shift in your tone, because they need to know. They need to understand. They need to find the moment where they lost control. But you're not giving them that closure. You're just existing. And your existence is the answer they can't accept. Let me tell you something they'll never admit. That council meeting, that 3 a.m. emergency session, that 6-hour argument about you, it wasn't the first one. You've been the subject of countless conversations, group chats, private calls, encrypted messages. You've been discussed more than you've been directly addressed. You've been analyzed more than you've been appreciated. Because the truth is, people who can't control you become obsessed with understanding you, and people who can't understand you become obsessed with destroying the parts of you that don't make sense to them. They've been studying you for longer than you realize. Every time you went quiet, they noticed. Every time you changed your approach, they tracked it. Every time you cut someone off without explanation, They held emergency meetings trying to figure out what triggered it. You thought you were just living your life, setting boundaries, evolving in silence. But to them, every move you made was a coded message they had to decrypt. Every silence was a strategy they had to counter. Every boundary was a wall they had to find a way around. You were never just a person to them. You were a problem to be solved. And here's where it gets really twisted. The more you ignored them, the more valuable you became to them. The more you withdrew, the more they wanted access. The more you thrived without them, the more they needed to explain how that was possible. Because in their minds, you weren't supposed to win. You weren't supposed to heal. You weren't supposed to build something beautiful out of the ashes of what they burned. You were supposed to stay broken so they could feel whole. You were supposed to stay small so they could feel big. You were supposed to stay stuck so they could feel evolved. But you didn't follow their script. You didn't play your part. You took their betrayal and turned it into fuel. You took their rejection and turned it into redirection. You took their abandonment and turned it into freedom. And every time they check in on you expecting to see ruins, they see a kingdom rising. Every time they expect to see you bitter, they see you at peace. Every time they expect to see you begging to come back, they see you building something they'll never have access to. And that complete inversion of their expectations, that's what drives them insane. So they gather, they strategize, they theorize. They try to find the formula, the explanation, the logical reason why someone they discarded is now thriving beyond their reach. And the answer is so simple they can't see it. You stopped giving them power. You stopped letting their opinions shape your reality. You stopped waiting for their approval to validate your existence. You stopped participating in their psychological games and started playing a completely different game, one where they're not even on the board. And that's the move they'll never recover from. You know what happens after a meeting like that ends with no resolution? Paranoia. They start watching you differently, not with the casual surveillance they used to do, but with genuine fear. Because if they couldn't predict your last move, what's coming next? If one word from you could dismantle 6 hours of their planning, what could a sentence do? What could a decision do? What could your full, focused intention do if you ever decided to stop being merciful and start being strategic? They start seeing patterns that aren't there. They start reading into every post, every story, every shift in your energy like it's a message meant specifically for them. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But the beauty is, you don't have to tell them. You don't owe them clarity. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them the comfort of knowing whether you're thinking about them at all. And that uncertainty, that's your power now. Because powerful people don't announce their moves. They just move. And the world adjusts. They'll try to bait you. Oh yes, they will. They'll post things designed to get a reaction. They'll send messages through mutual connections. They'll create situations hoping you'll respond, hoping you'll engage, hoping you'll give them something to work with. But you've learned the ultimate lesson. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a statement. And your silence says more than their 1,000-word explanations ever could. It says, I've moved on. It says, you're irrelevant now. It says, I'm building something you'll never understand because you're still playing games. I quit years ago. And here's the twist they didn't see coming. Your silence isn't passive. It's not avoidance. It's not fear. It's active, intentional, strategic disengagement. You're not running from them. You're running towards something bigger, something better, something that doesn't require their presence or permission. Every day you don't respond is another day you're building. Every hour they spend analyzing you is another hour you're evolving past their capacity to comprehend. The gap widens, the distance grows, and they're stuck on one side of it, screaming into the void, while you're on the other side, building empires in the silence. Some of them will try the apologetic approach. They'll reach out with carefully crafted messages designed to look humble, look genuine, look like they've grown. But you can smell the manipulation now. You can see the hooks hidden in the bait. You can read between the lines and see the same control tactics dressed in new language. And the beautiful thing? You don't even have to call it out. You don't have to expose it. You just don't respond. And that non-response is the loudest message you could ever send. It says, I see exactly what you're doing, and it doesn't work on me anymore. While they were having meetings about you, you were having meetings with yourself. While they were debating your worth, you were building your value in silence. While they were trying to figure out your next move, you were 10 moves ahead, playing a game they don't even know exists yet. Because here's what they missed. You weren't competing with them. You were never competing with them. You were competing with the version of yourself who used to need their validation. And you won that war. You became someone they can't define. Someone they can't box in. Someone who doesn't fit their narratives, their categories, their expectations. You became the anomaly in their system, the glitch in their matrix, the question mark in their equations. And instead of celebrating that freedom, instead of recognizing that power, they tried to study it, contain it, control it. But you can't contain chaos. You can't control evolution. You can't stop someone who's already died and resurrected in the silence. They're fighting a ghost. And ghosts don't respond to physical attacks. Every time they thought they had you figured out, you shifted. Every time they thought they knew your pattern, you changed the frequency. Every time they thought they could predict your response, you chose silence. And that unpredictability, that refusal to be consistent in ways they could exploit, that's your superpower now. You're not playing defense anymore. You're not explaining yourself anymore. You're not trying to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You're just existing in your truth. And your truth is so bright, it blinds everyone who stares too long. The crown you're wearing now? It wasn't given to you. It wasn't inherited. It wasn't borrowed. You forged it yourself in the fires they set trying to burn you. Every betrayal was a jewel. Every rejection was a foundation stone. Every moment they tried to break you was another degree of heat that made the metal stronger. And now you wear it so naturally, so effortlessly, they can't even tell it's there. But they feel it every time you walk into a room, digital or physical. They feel the weight of your presence. They feel the shift in power. They feel the reality that you're not beneath them anymore. You're beyond them. And here's the part that's going to echo in their minds forever. You did it without their help. You did it without their approval. You did it without their resources, their networks, their support systems. You did it alone, in the dark, with nothing but your will and your refusal to stay down. And that's the story they can't stand. That's the narrative that destroys their worldview. Because if you can rise from ashes without them, what does that say about their importance? What does that say about their power? What does that say about the control they thought they had? It says it was always an illusion, and you were the one who stopped believing in it. That one word you said, That one moment that ended their 6-hour panic session, it's going to live forever. Not because it was profound, not because it was clever, but because it represented something they'll never have. The ability to be free from the need to explain, to justify, to defend. You've reached a level of existence where your truth doesn't need a 1,000-word explanation. It just needs to exist. An existence, pure, unapologetic existence. That's the most powerful statement you can make. They'll tell stories about you. Oh yes, they will. Years from now, when they're trying to explain to someone else how they lost control, how they lost the narrative, how they lost access to someone they thought they owned, they'll mention you. They'll talk about the time they held a meeting, tried to strategize, tried to find the angle, and you ended it all with one word. They won't remember what the word was, but they'll remember how it felt, like a door closing, like a light switching off, like the end of a chapter they wanted to keep writing. And the people hearing that story, they'll ask, "What did you do after that?" And the answer will be, "Nothing. There was nothing to do." Because you can't fight someone who's already left the battlefield. You can't win a war against someone who's not playing anymore. You can't defeat an enemy who doesn't see you as relevant enough to engage with. And that's the position you've put them in. Not through aggression, not through revenge, but through the simple, devastating act of moving on. Your legacy isn't going to be the arguments you won. It's not going to be the points you proved. It's not going to be the explanations you gave. Your legacy is going to be the example you set, that you can survive the worst they have to offer and come out not bitter, not broken, but beautiful in ways they'll never comprehend. You're going to be the story people tell when they need hope, the example they reference when they need courage, the proof they cite when they need to believe that you can walk through fire and come out forged instead of destroyed. And the people who tried to break you, they're going to spend the rest of their lives trying to explain how you got away, how you healed, how you thrived. They'll create theories and narratives and explanations that make them feel better about losing control. But deep down, in the quiet moments, when they can't lie to themselves, they'll know the truth. They lost because you stopped playing. They lost because you chose yourself. They lost because you became someone they could never break, never own, never define. And that's a loss they'll carry forever.